All right, welcome. Today, we're going to demystify the world of data analytics. We're going on a journey, and we're going to follow data all the way from its raw, kind of chaotic state to a clear, really powerful insight. Let's get into it.
So to really get why this journey is so important, we have to talk about scale. We are officially living in the zettabyte era. By 2023, the world was on track to create 100 zettabytes of data. That's a 1 with 21 zeros after it. To put that in perspective, you'd need a billion 1 terabyte hard drives just to store 1 zettabyte. We are all swimming in an absolute ocean of data.
But here's the thing, and this is so crucial. Most of that raw data, it's totally useless on its own. It's just noise. See, data is just raw facts. A number, a date, a single word. But information, that's when you take those facts and you put them in a context that actually makes sense. And that transformation from meaningless data to valuable information, that's the entire journey we're talking about today.
So if we're all surrounded by this massive ocean of data, how do we find our way? You can't just dive in blind, right? You need a map. You need a process to navigate this flood and find the treasure that's hidden inside.
This example here really hits the nail on the head. The word orange by itself, that's just data. It could be a color, a fruit, a company, who knows? But a sentence like, an orange is a delicious fruit? Well, now we have information. Our very first task is to create that kind of meaning out of all the chaos. So this modern challenge of dealing with this flood of data, you've probably heard it called big data, right? And it's usually defined by 3 main characteristics, what everyone famously calls the 3 V's.
First up, you've got volume. And yeah, we already talked about those zettabytes. Then there's velocity. Just think about the thousands of tweets, credit card swipes, and sensor readings being created every single second. And finally, you have variety. This isn't just about neat and tidy spreadsheets anymore. It's a messy mix of emails, photos, videos, audio files, you name it, all flooding in at the same time. So, how in the world do you handle all 3 of those V's at once? Well, the modern solution is something called a data lake. The name is actually a perfect metaphor. Think of it like this giant natural reservoir. It's a central spot where you can just pour all of your data, structured, unstructured, it doesn't matter, in its raw, original format. This is the collection point where our journey really begins.
Okay, so we've got all our raw material collected in our data lake. Now what? Well, this is where the real magic starts. We get to start asking questions.
And that process is called data analytics. This is really the engine that powers our whole journey. It's the systematic way we dig into that data, find patterns, and at the end of the day, come up with answers and conclusions that we can actually use.
Okay, this is super cool. What I love about this is how the questions we ask get smarter and smarter as we go. We start with descriptive analytics, which is basically just looking back to understand what happened. Then we get a little more clever with diagnostic analytics and ask, okay, why did that happen? From there, it gets really powerful. We use predictive analytics to forecast what is likely to happen next. And then at the very top is prescriptive analytics, which actually recommends actions by answering, so what should we do about it? See how we're moving from just looking in the rearview mirror to actually shaping what's ahead?
So, how do analysts actually do all this? Well, it's not magic, but it's close. They use specialized tools. Programming languages like SQL, R, and Python. These are basically the languages they use to speak to the data, to ask all these complex questions and get the answers back. All right, so we've collected the data, we've run our analysis, we've found this amazing game-changing insight. We're done, right? Nope, not even close, because finding the insight is only half the battle. If you can't communicate it to other people in a way they understand, it's completely worthless. Let me show you exactly what I mean. I want you to look at the next 2 slides and just ask yourself this one question. Which one actually tells me a story?
Okay, here's Exhibit A. It's a table just packed with numbers. Technically, all the information is there, somewhere, but it's a total mess, right? Your brain has to work way too hard just to figure out what matters. The story is completely buried.
But now, look at this. It's the exact same data, but presented in a clean, effective graphic. See how it uses color and layout to instantly draw your eye to the most important thing? The story is clear, it's powerful, and you get it in like 2 seconds. That right there is the power of good data visualization. And the tools that help create these kinds of visual stories, things like Power BI and Tableau, they're basically the storyteller's paint set. They let analysts take all those numbers and paint a clear, compelling picture that brings their insights to life for everyone else to understand. All right, let's bring this all home. We're at the final stop on our journey, and honestly, it's the most important one, using all this to make smarter decisions. So here it is, the big takeaway. This entire journey, from collecting the data, to cleaning it, to analyzing it, to visualizing it, it is all for one ultimate goal: making better, more informed decisions. Because every major decision you make is a bet on the future, and this whole process is how you stack the odds in your favor.
And if you need a perfect and kind of painful example of why this matters, in 1962, Decca Records famously rejected the Beatles. They told them, and I quote, "Guitar groups are on the way out." It was a completely catastrophic data-poor decision. The true insight, the real value of this whole journey, is being able to avoid that kind of mistake.
So there you have it, the whole journey, from raw, messy numbers to real-world impact. It kind of makes you wonder, doesn't it? And that massive sea of data that's all around us every day, what amazing stories are just sitting there waiting for someone to tell them.